Minutes, we're good. Okay, great. And attached warrants.
Questions on the warrant?
No questions?
Can I jump then right into the modulars update? Because that's the other part that I have.
Yeah.
So it's a three-phase project that's been confirmed with us. We have to have some project management services and then design services to scope out the design of the project. And then when that's done, we hire a modular company to come deliver, install the buildings themselves. So we've been working with our project manager. There were actually three vendors, design vendors already on call with the city. So we worked through the first one and the second one and the third one, and none of them wanted to take the job. So today we submitted a request, an RFQ, so that we can hire a design firm to design the project for us, since none of the city's three on-call vendors can take on the project. So
Matt, do the vendors themselves, do they offer design?
no,
So
so
you're just dropping off these
yes,
materials?
the modular vendors themselves do the delivery, installation, and then eventual removal of the buildings, but they don't design the project itself. We'll provide them with specifications and then they'll meet them. So I also had a conversation with the vendor who worked with the Northeast Vocational School to do their project. So walked through the same process with them, and she said, yes, get it designed.
No, they're very good, and I mean, we've had very good luck with them.
Who was the design firm that worked on the Volks modules?
That was, I think it's Arius, I don't have it in front of me.
Is it somebody, I mean, who
Yeah, we reached out to, they reached out to
are
them.
they one of the three, I mean?
No, they're number 4.
Right, no, those three had already contracted with the city to be
I
on
see, they were
call.
already on call.
But then you need to present them with the timeline and the project, and they can say yes or no.
Got it.
And did they give a reason why they said no? Just don't have the hands to do the
Capacity
work?
issues for all three.
Don't have the hands to do the work.
Yeah,
Okay, no, I was just curious.
so we'll now get a design. We had to go through that first because they were already contracted
No, I
with the
understand.
city. Now that we
I
got
see.
no, we'll hopefully get someone fast to design it for us. And then we have the modular vendor set up, ready for us to present to them specifications, get a quote from them and get it moving down from there. So you'll see eventually payments for small project management services helping us do this. A larger purchase order for the design services, and then a much larger
For the vendor.
purchase order for the actual modular buildings. Although we'll be leasing those on a monthly basis, so that will spread out over the course of a number of years. So hopefully by the next time that we're talking here, the design firm is on board and either has completed the design or is in process of that, so that we can get some funds encumbered before June 30th for that going forward. So,
I spoke with them also, I mean, before you talked to them
Yep.
also. And basically, once you get the design in, they said, when the last time that I talked to them, they gave me like a 6 to 7 month. He said the more, less involved as far as like you don't want bathrooms and everything, the less, installation cost will be and so on. And then basically you pay upfront, you pay the installation, and then it's a month-to-month basis. As far as for a contract itself, the longer you do the contract, say, instead of we do, say, 3 to 4 years, the less the payment per month. And he goes, and if you go over, we're not gonna ask you, we need you to get it out. We're just gonna extend it, and then when it's time to take it out, then you pay when you have to remove it.
so the real work will be when we have those specifications in hand to work with the modular vendors themselves to get timeline and expected costs to be able to green light it forward from there. So that's the update on where we're at with that, and we'll touch base again. in a month.
Thank you.
John?
I guess my concern is, how do we make sure that we spend the money by June 30th? Because we have to, right?
We'll be able, project management services and design services will be encumbered
Okay.
before June 30th
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
didn't want to lose.
And then I'm not sure about the speed on the modulars.
Give them a
Um,
retainer.
True. And we've, we'll have another quarterly report to review together at the April.
Yeah, no, I was just
meeting.
afraid,
So we'll
June's
see
coming
where our
quick and then we
progress
all
is there.
think, yeah, April 1st is right around the corner. Okay, thank you.
They might even, they even talked about, when I talked to briefly, I said, if we give you a year up front, say we agreed and everything like that, we can negotiate some sort of like lesser price and so on, so they're open to anything.
Yeah, we're more concerned with the encumbrance happening in a timely manner than the actual expenditure, because the accrual accounting will give us the credit for it. So we've got the next month to get all these steps pushed through and have more information in April.
Thank you.
Okay?
Great, no more questions there?
Great, thank you.
Excellent.
So no financial reports, sorry, no
Thank
food
you,
service
Matt.
financials attached?
No.
No communications updated?
No.
Enrollment update, nothing?
Nope.
Okay. Personnel,
Under, oh, no, I'm going down to retirement. Go ahead. Sorry.
personnel, new hires and retirements resignations. Terminations. Ms. Rizzo.
I just was going to ask, and Dr. McCover can help. I saw the exit survey that we normally have, and I know with the DESI program that we're working with.
The Teacher
I-
Diversification Grant PLC,
Pardon me?
with the Teacher Diversification Grant PLC?
Right.
Mhm.
So I know she has submitted our survey. Is there a possibility of updating it and maybe getting more information for data?
I think that Doc is working on that with Allison is on one of the small groups that is working on that. So jointly HR and.
Yeah, Allison Schrank.
Yep.
I never put the face with the name.
And do we have any other updates on the new hires or retirements? Back from Kava? Or, I'm sorry. No, okay.
And we have no donations or anything. So we can move to the school field trips.
Yeah. We do have a late communication on that, correct?
Yeah.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Teresa?
School field trips aren't like communications, and as much as I never want to take away from a student travel, I think one of them was submitted today. And the policy says if it is, it needs to be 30 days out for approval. When we're telling kids they can leave the state, I would at least want to be able to understand what the writing was on the paper that was submitted to us. I couldn't read it.
Mhm.
I don't know if anyone else had a problem with it, but I couldn't understand it.
The out-of-state
I
camping
think it
trip,
was the outdoor one.
camping trip?
Yeah, I know Mr. Fellows typed his in. And these are things that you already know, like robotics and JROTC. They give it to us just in case. Doesn't mean that they're going on it, but they want to get it in a timely manner. And I just believe it's only fair for everyone to do it. I don't want to say no to the students because they're not at fault.
Yeah,
But it is a policy and it's something that we really need to stand by. I don't know. I mean, the handwritten one, I have no clue. It's, yeah, that one.
what, the little handwriting down here?
Yeah,
I was able to read it. I didn't have a problem with it. I totally get what you're saying as far as the policy. I don't want to hurt the kids. And I suppose in this instance, we could vote to bypass the policy in this instance if we choose to.
you
So
can.
what-
And that's fine. I'm not gonna be the bad person and say, no, they're not going.
No, but you're absolutely right.
Besides, I'd be the only vote anyhow, so I would say it needs to be reiterated to anyone that are doing the clubs and after-school programs. Maybe a couple times a year, because JROTC can do it, robotics can even do it, they can all do it.
I mean, would there be a problem if we just moved it to April? Because the field trips are
So,
for late
yeah,
May.
so I'm looking.
So we. could-
One is, and
Yeah, but they wanna probably be able to fundraise and everything else, right?
Mm.
Does what part of it is unclear, I guess? Like, is it, I get the policy violation that they didn't submitted in time, but what question is it that remains that raises concern?
I think it was just following, like, we got them both today. The agenda was finalized and
Yeah, I get
posted a
that.
week ago. I think it's just,
I mean, that should have been online 48 hours prior to our meeting. Again, I don't want to hurt the students for what the adults do. So I would like it to be reiterated to anyone,
It looks like this was approved 6 days ago.
what, by the principal.
One was, the other one was like today, maybe. I don't even know what they did.
Right.
I can't read that either.
Yeah, this one.
And scrolling,
So-
scrolling.
What do you propose, Stacy, for this particular communication, this particular field trip?
Does someone want to read the stuff on the right-hand bottom?
It looks
Sure,
like.
I'll give it a tap. It looks like it says, National Guard will arrive, will drive students and 1
or
to
two.
2 adults to New Hampshire and pick us up. The is it Beth Train? Looks like a name.
Beth Ann.
Beth Ann
Beth
will
Ann.
drive in her car separately with other adults so that we will have a car present in case of an emergency.
Yes.
And that one's free of charge. So there's no
Right.
need to fundraise if we want to wait until April for that one.
Well, we don't know that's the case. It may be free of charge, but they may choose to, you know, they may choose to fundraise an additional thing they might want to do. Stacy, what would you like to do? Hold off on this one?
No, it's up to you to
It's up to
vote
you.
on it. It's
Right, I
up-
get it.
I brought it up, and it's up for people to vote on it, or to make a motion to pass them,
I'd make a
not up to
motion,
me.
I'd make a motion.
I'm
to
not
pass
saying
it.
it's up to you. I'm just saying if you wanted to put forth a motion to address the issues that you've raised. Or that's just your piece as far as how.
Well, I'm hoping in the minutes it lets them know that they need to.
It's fair.
We can
Also-
put it in the policy.
Yeah, that's.
Also, if we could probably maybe ask, the administration send out just a reminder to have these up, in a more timely fashion so that they can be on the, they're gonna be on the minutes and they'll also be in the packets, ahead of time.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
can reiterate it,
No, that's fair.
we can reiterate it in our next policy.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah,
few that
exactly.
we
You might
need
wanna
to
look at maybe
reiterate
we should look at the
quarterly,
policies.
probably, like fundraising and these type of things that they'll go over it at the beginning of the year.
Right.
But somewhere down the road, they forget all about it, and you'll see something on donors choose or something, and principals don't know, so
That's fine.
they just need reminders.
It's a perfect time.
Mhm.
So that's good. So we'll have a reminder sent out. It'll be reflected in the minutes and then, when we approve the consent calendar, we can approve to amend, what's it called, to amend the policy and just approve these 2 late field trips with the consent calendar. Is everyone okay with that?
Yes,
Anyone not?
Well, I think the amending of the policy would go to subcommittee.
No, it's like to not amend it, but like, what's the word? To override it for this case.
For this case.
Yes. So is anyone opposed to that?
No.
Okay, so then we'll approve overriding the policy for these 2 field trips and approving them when we approve the consent calendar at 6 p.m.
Wonderful.
Great.
All right. And then, regular meeting, updates and miscellaneous items. I know that, update on the planning for honors classes. I'm not sure. Are we gonna talk about that?
I am.
Dr. McCaba?
So I'm here with an update for the middle school honors program. We, a team of representatives from each middle school, curriculum directors and I met 3 times over the last few weeks. They are proposing that they begin honors implementation at the 8th grade next year only, in ELA and math. And then potentially roll it down to the 7th grade after they have a year of data from the 8th grade.
Potentially.
Yes.
I don't like potentially.
Yeah,
I don't even.
I'm kind of.
This is completely against what all these, we had 50 parents, students, teachers, all advocating for the honors. They came away from that meeting, in my opinion, with the feeling that middle school and high school was gonna have an honors program next year. And this is completely pulling the rug, completely pulling the rug out from their feet. I just, I can't agree with it at all, 100% at all.
So I can talk through their proposed plan, and then I can talk about and field any questions. So what they had done was looked at their 8th grade students. And some of the challenges I will say that have come up are middle schools have teams, and they're looking at how will implementing honors sections at each school impact their teams. How are they going to plan for staffing? As you all had anticipated, that would be a potential challenge for instituting an honors level program. Their proposal is that parents will receive a letter that identifies their child's placement. They will have the opportunity to attend an information session where they'll describe the expectations for honors courses versus the expectations for typical ELA 8 or a Math 8 course, principals and curriculum directors. And they want to keep it open. So all parents will have the option, if their child is not placed in an honors course, given the criteria, and I can review some of the criteria with you, that parents would have the option to opt their children in.
Good.
So the expectations for honors specifically is that they will have to complete the exceeding expectation tasks. They're not going to receive, let's say, a different book or a different curriculum. It's the same curriculum. They'll be using the same learning standards, but they will have the expectation that they are completing all of the exceeding competency tasks, learning tasks, and standards. This is similar to the plan that I think was presented earlier about the high school. That's that they are in all students will have the opportunity in the other classes to engage in the EC tasks. So again, we're not closing the door. They will have that exposure to honors level work, exceeding competency opportunities, and the door is open throughout the year for kids to move into an honors class at the end of each trimester. So our middle schools are currently on trimesters. At the end of each trimester, with a parent and student agreement, they are able to move into an honors class. There also would be the ability to move out of an honors class. Again, we would want to have the discussion and we would want to give a child time to acclimate to the expectations. So we would hope that that door would open and close at each trimester. So to give a kid a trimester to engage, and if they were still struggling at the end of the trimester, we would allow them to move to a college level or a standard level ELA 8 or Math 8.
Could you just repeat, I don't have my head wrapped around it yet.
Yep.
As far as, you had mentioned that they were gonna have the same curriculum?
Yep, so like 8th grade math has the same learning standards. So we're going to use the same curriculum, the same learning standards. They are going to, what our teachers have developed are tasks based on those standards. They have developed tasks that demonstrate a rigor that is beyond the expectation for the standard. So they are taking a deeper dive. They are taking a wider breadth look at some opportunities for, let's say, in history, and Tony I remember being in his class. We are talking about if you have, you're asking a student to do a task and report on, let's say, a war, they are able to bring in multiple pieces of material or multiple countries, and they're able to expand sort of what would be expected of the standard. So they're going beyond.
Okay, but you said it's only gonna be ELA and math, correct? So it won't be
That's-
history?
The proposal is ELA and math.
Oh, but I'm not hearing anything different of what you're describing of what the kids have available now. That when they do this extra work that affords them the opportunity to earn the EC.
So
What's the difference between the honors program that we requested and what you're saying now?
So the expectation is EC. So a child is going in with the expectation that I am doing I am always expected to do that work that exceeds what the standard would be.
Mandatory,
It's mandatory,
And
not optional.
not optional.
so it's the same honors program, but the way, let me know if I'm understanding this right, is that, so it's still the same curriculum because it's still the same standards across the grade that students have to achieve, but now the work and the lessons will be at the honors level. So it's still the same learning standards, but the assignments and the work that students are doing will be more rigorous because it'll meet those honored standards.
And but are the students in the same classroom
Yes.
as the other kids?
No, there's honor sections.
There's an honor section, okay.
Yep.
Okay, that's
Oh.
the distinction.
Yes,
I was just
where-
trying to understand.
and
if
I
there
can-
was a
I'm gonna-
second component to
Sorry.
the honors program, which
Yes.
is the rigor and.
John,
Yeah.
John has a question.
Yep.
When I voted on this in January, I was expecting, in the motion in the past, it said all core subjects. And we're not doing that, and I assumed it was gonna be all grades, and we're not doing that. So I guess what I'll have to do next month is bring up a motion that it would be all schools, all grades, all core subjects. Which I thought we already covered in January. I understand there's some work that has to be done, but we taught honors 3 years ago. It's not like we're going to Mars here. So I don't understand why we're doing a pilot and potential and all that. That's not what the school committee voted in January.
Well, and there's still
We
5
voted for a middle school program, middle school honors program. Now, I guess I'll fault myself. I didn't make the motion, but I supported it. I guess it should have said all grades, all schools. So I'll plan on putting a motion for April that it's gonna say all schools, all core subjects, all grades. I just don't agree with what's being done. I don't think, to Mr. Matera's point, I think people were expecting us to have honors for all 3 grades. We did it 3 years ago. It's not something that we're, piloting something that's totally foreign to the district or never been done before. So I'm upset about it. Dr. Kelly made an aside last month and said, oh, we're only gonna do 8th grade. And I thought about it for a second and I said, oh, we're gonna have to revisit that. And it just didn't happen. It was a long meeting and we left. But it's been bothering me since last month when she said it. I don't think that was the spirit of the motion. I don't think that was the spirit that night. And to find out that we're doing it in the 8th grade only, we're not including science, we're not including history. I don't understand it. And it's bothering me and I don't think it was the motion that passed that night, though. So I feel that it's bothering me a lot. I understand it may be some work on your end, but again, it's something that this body passed. And I don't see why it's being, kind of cast aside as far as I'm concerned. I'm really upset about it. I don't understand. And like I said, I will make a motion next month to be extremely clear. All 3 buildings, all grades and all core subjects. And that way, I think it'll be crystal clear because I realized I looked at the motion very carefully and what was passed, and it probably could have been worded better on our part. It didn't say all grades. It did say all core subjects, but it didn't say all grades. So I guess I should have maybe made a substitute motion that night, which I didn't. I'm sorry I didn't because it doesn't seem like I'm getting what I thought I was getting in January. And 2 months have already passed, and I know you can say to me, well, there's gonna be a lot of work that needs to be done. There's 5 months till school starts. I think with the capable people that we have in 5 months, we can put something together. That's how I feel, and I'm not backing down from that. And like I said, there will be a motion next month to specify clearly what I thought was already clear, but evidently wasn't. So it's bothering me a lot.
Stacy?
Thank you.
I do have the criteria, if you wanted. We can get back to that after your.
I'm not,
Yeah, first, it's my turn.
all right, go ahead.
First, if you don't mind sharing that information with us, that would be helpful.
Yeah, I just,
I'm more visual
Mhm.
than listening, obviously. The part I don't, I know what everyone wanted back in January, but if we have our teachers and our curriculum director saying they would feel more comfortable to get data for 8th grade, isn't that a starting point? And to say, you have 5 months, just do it. I can say I want to build a house, I have 5 months, just do it. It's not gonna be an easy task. So, I mean, it's easy for us to say, go do it, but there's a lot of things that have to be in place for it. So, I mean, I don't see why we can't get the data. If they're doing something that works well in 8th grade, then we tweak it or we make it harder for the next year, but it starts somewhere. I mean, that's my opinion.
Fine.
I think just to add, thank you all for sharing. So just a reminder, public comment, I actually kept tally and it was only mentioned for the high school program.
Mhm.
No one no member of the public came to speak about the middle school program. And we did have honors 3 years ago, but that was only at the high school. There currently are very few districts that have an honors program for middle school. So we really are piloting something new that can set an example for the district. So to set that example up, implementation has to slowly start and pilot, but so those are just my two thoughts there. Also a reminder, because this is a programmatic and policy change, if we want to substitute motion, it has to go first to the policies and procedures subcommittee because it requires a 3-read policy to make any change to program or policy like this. So if you'd like to refer it, John, happy to pass it over to our chair of the policies and procedures if you want to make a different motion for April. So I just wanted to add that reminder.
Thank you.
I was going to say something also too. When I was campaigning in September, October, I spoke to other school committee people. I talked to our own at the high school and so on, and I met with curriculums, assistant superintendents and so on. And I says, this is what I'm looking to do. Is it too far to ask too much? How much time do you need? And I said, I'll be elected in January. I'll get elected in January. Did January give enough time? And between other school committees I've talked to, and even at the high school, they said it shouldn't be a problem. They says that's enough time to get things done. But one question I wanted to ask you is, when we're looking at people to go into honors and to not, is there special testing? Or is
That's
it
what I'm
just,
gonna talk about.
okay, or is it just that you just ask parents? How does it actually work? Again,
Give her a chance, I'll go back to you.
I guess my question is, I'd like to have a better understanding as to why we're not tackling the history and the other core courses.
Mhm.
And maybe if we had a better understanding as to what obstacles we're facing, maybe I completely agree with what my colleagues have said. And Jackie made some valid points, but while I think the people were speaking of an honors program, and maybe they didn't mention the middle school, the spirit was definitely to implement honors program in middle and high school. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But I would like to have more information about what obstacles they're specifically having that is hindering the ability to provide us with what we voted on and what we're expecting.
So I can say that we absolutely talked about all 4 content areas. And one of the challenges, like I had mentioned, was that scheduling, it oftentimes locks kids into a strict schedule because back in the day, ELA and history was often paired together and math and science was often paired together. So it locks their schedule. I think they were looking at, again, feasibility. It's not, I'm sure that revisiting the history and the science could certainly happen. But what they wanted to focus on were the 2 courses that were going to transition the kids into high school quickly. One of the another reason why they wanted to focus on 8th grade is they have 3 years of data for these kids. They're going to accept 6th graders coming in from the lottery with data that we're gathering from a myriad of tests. We might want to plan and think about 6th grade a little bit differently. In the past, we did use standardized tests or district level assessments in the 5th grade to place students in the 6th grade. And I don't believe that we have something that we're 100% have implemented already.
Mhm.
So it would sort of be going into the Wayback Machine and sort of picking assessments that we have rather than giving an assessment intentionally next year that we could use as a benchmark.
okay, but,
And I can talk about the criteria now. Yep.
okay, just.
So
Okay.
there are 5 different criteria that they would like to look for in ELA, and they would score the students based on a rubric. The first would be their Lexile score. So that is, they would get that from their reading inventory. The second would be a district common assessment. And that would be, they also have a summative writing task as part of that district common assessment. The third would be their overall domain ratings in reading and writing. The fourth would be, their trimester 2. So now we're looking at kids that are with us for next year, their trimester 2, student ownership in their habits of work, grade, and then their 2023 MCAS results.
Okay, so this is already data that you have.
Yes, so,
Like
yeah.
you're not doing any more testing. It's just data that you already have in hand in your system.
And
Uh,
you have it because they're in 8th grade, right? So you wouldn't have this for 6th graders.
So we don't have it we have it for existing 6th graders that would
Okay.
be 7th graders,
Okay.
but we don't
Okay.
have it for.
And what do you have for
going
the
into
5th graders
6th.
going into the 6th grade?
We would definitely have a reading inventory.
Okay.
We would have some sort of we would have summative assessments that we could, look at, potentially using those as that end of year measure.
And the habits of work.
For 5th grade, and potentially, we wouldn't have their MCAS scores, would have their 4th grade MCAS
Okay.
scores.
This is where teachers have to get together because teachers know the kids better than any test, better than anything else.
Of course,
And you have the teachers help put together these honors classes between all the principals and assistant principals and guidance counselors and coaches. I think there's plenty of people out there that can work on this. I don't think there's a lack of people being able to worry about not having enough people putting classes together. I see no excuses. I see no reason.
And then also too as well, you know, we need to ask the parents what they feel about their own kids. So if we have all that data there, I don't know what the problem is in implementing the 6th, the 7th, and the 8th. Yeah.
Middle school did have honors program 3 years ago. They did. They did.
during COVID.
No,
Yeah.
before COVID. So, all right, so you wanna go 4 years? Okay, 4 years ago. They had an honors program at the middle school.
My kid taught honors. He taught honors civics.
I think, and so just for the math, a similar thing, and
Yes.
I'm happy to share the rubric. Common assessments for domain grades.
I'm sorry, that last, the 5.
Yeah.
Rubrics for the one you just gave us, that was for ELA?
Yep, on a 4-point, scale.
And then Dr. McCulba, by when are students being placed in classrooms?
So they were hoping, that you would approve their plan and that they would be able to send letters out, beginning to mid-April. And hold that meeting prior to, the end of the year with the parents to, again, get parents that want to opt their kids in, or parents that want to ask questions to opt their kids out.
So the ask was for us to approve this tonight,
This was their ideal, yes.
because it wasn't,
And I do want to frame, it's not that they're saying that they're not able to, like, I think, and it's not that this was, what their ideal transition into this. Doing it in a thoughtful way, given the data that they have and their teams and their schedule and their planning. So I don't want anybody here to leave thinking that they wanted to sort of not do the work. They're happy to do the work, but this would be their ideal plan.
so if we didn't approve this tonight to engage in more conversations, if
Mhm.
some members want to ensure that it's expanded to all grades, et cetera, would that then make it almost impossible to even implement anything next year because it'll be too late if we wait until April or May? Or what do you all think? Like, would it be best that we at least approve this to start working with some honors as they continue and then we can, revise and add? Because I would be afraid that we delay it and then they wouldn't have anything to start with. What do you all think?
And I will say, implementing at more grade levels, they would want to get a better handle on their staff needs because it would be, they are all sort of sketching out what this would look like with their schedule, and they know they're going to need additional staff for just this 8th grade,
The principals?
ELA and math, 8th grade. So I would like to make sure that aligns with your budget planning.
So even though I would love to start somewhere, I think we need to agree first on the rubrics and I think that's a major part.
So I can tell you how it SBA, I have SBA sort of projected numbers. And they're looking at if they use a cutoff score of 13 points on the math rubric, they would have about 26 students that would be placed in that course. With anyone that opts into the course, now they're running the risk of having to have another section. Similarly for ELA, they're at about 28 students with that same cutoff. Understanding that, again, they want to leave the door open for teacher recommendations, kids that should potentially be placed in there. So it's potentially a 1 or 2 section scenario for ELA and math at SBA. And that's just numbers that they ran to be
The
able
only,
to have.
the only compromise I would offer, because I have given this a lot of thought, because it has bothered me, I'd be willing to agree to 8 and 7. And if you want to use 6 to try to gauge the kids and get them used to it because they'd be new to the building, I don't have a huge problem with that. But it has to be 8 and 7 all core, because that's what we voted on. So I'll give you the 6th grade to kind of work out the
Okay.
kinks, I guess.
All right.
But 8 and 7 all core, that would include history and science. Because that to me was the spirit of the motion in January.
So I have a slightly separate question. Just when you talked about opt-in, clearly there needs to be a kind of a pre-qualification for the student. And we know everyone's parent is gonna say, oh, well, my kid should be one of those. And maybe there's some justifications, the teachers are gonna be able to get together and say, this person should be, whatever reason they weren't scoring highly on this. Where is that, who makes that decision? The principal? Collaboration of the teachers and guidance counselors? And then, how does that get handled when there are gonna be some letdowns? There's gonna be some students that are gonna say, even though you think you should, you're not there yet.
Mhm.
How does that conversation happen?
I think the principals were ready to have that conversation.
Okay.
They were also willing to potentially give that child the chance with the appropriate scaffolds. One of the things that came up was, there are students with IEPs that we would want to be able to allow them to be in there, and how would we make sure that we had team meetings ahead of time to have changes in IEPs so that they could reflect a consult rather than a inclusion teacher present. Yeah, so there are things that, they're happy to do the work to support the student and give them a chance. And if they're, like I said, if it's still a struggle after a trimester.
That's why it's a good thing for the doing trimesters, where we can adjust every 3 months.
Yep.
And there is gonna be adjustments throughout the whole thing. There's always been something
It
there.
should be.
So, I mean, we have that. I just think we have it in place. We just gotta, we have to move now. We can't just put it off another month or so.
So Ms. Rizzo?
Just following up the mayor's question, when they get nervous of the opt-in and teachers saying it's the students that they like and they have a personal relationship with families, and then some of the students that might be a pain in the butt are the ones that they don't want in that class, and that makes me nervous. I've been there.
Well, maybe if there's structured prerequisites.
Well, and the rubric
That's a
will be
big-
the first, that is the first sort of hurdle. It's how did they score
Right,
on
right,
these
exactly.
measures?
So you're gonna have some, right, exactly,
Yeah.
some standards to kind
Yeah.
of go by. Could you, I know we've interrupted, we don't have a ton of questions, but you started to talk about the math
Yep.
rubric. Could we get through that?
Yep, so district common assessment, so that's the same category. Overall domain ratings, and it's 3 domain grades in math. And that's for trimester 2, which they just got that data. Trimester 2 student ownership, so how did they do in their habits of work? And then their 2023 MCAS results.
And you'll send all of this to us?
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
Yep.
May I?
I know we have this.
As far as the amount of students per class, no one wants a high student-teacher ratio, of course. And honors, however, it's a lot more bearable. Having 30 students in front of you as a teacher, as an honors class, it works fine. As long as the teacher runs the classroom properly. But you have the kids that want to learn, you have the kids that are getting pushed a little bit more. I don't think that little higher number, if that's going to be a problem, it should be a big determining factor.
Good point.
I don't think it's okay to say that make the assumptions that students in other classes don't want to learn. I think a high number is high for a teacher, no matter the course. So I want to just state that for all our students.
I mean, there's not a teacher in any district that doesn't want 30 honest children sitting in front of them. I mean, it's just human to want that, but to assume that a C student is not going to be a good student and maybe is not worthy of that math and English. That's what happens.
Mr. Okay, Dr. McCaba, do you think, I know that there's, this kind of a change, not a change, John and team are clarifying a little bit more. Do you think that there's any way that that's attainable? Open discussion here.
I would like to hear from them, but based on the things that we had talked about, that, I shared some of the concerns about having to restructure the team model at middle school, particularly. I know SBA has a team model. I believe RMA has a team model. I think they all do. That was one of the challenges, but
But they also have like, what, 8 or 9, maybe 10 different tracks at the middle school, and although they have the team models, they still
Yeah,
have
and so
various IEP models and
Yeah.
special need models and.
one of the
So-
things that they brought up was, and I know this from experience, and Dr. DeLucci can talk about it, if they're locked into these 4 honors scheduling or 3 or 1, it does impact their ability to, let's say, take drama or get that extracurricular, get the encore class that they're looking for, because though that might be offered once and the honors class is offered once. It's just, so, they will work with whatever
Things to consider.
restrictions are put on the schedule as a result. I know, I still think they will do whatever you are asking.
Let's
It's
get a
just,
copy of what you have here before we leave today. so
sure,
we
I can get you a copy. Yep.
Look it over.
We all have-
And this is something I can say that they came up with, this team came up with. And the coaches in particular, so this has not been widely shared with staff. So they're not, but they know that this is a public meeting. So I can definitely share that with you, but it's something that they were hoping they could leave here, tell their staff, we're good with this plan, and that they can start to implement what
And
they
in
were.
fairness, we haven't even received that information.
Yeah.
Like you're reading from it.
Yeah.
But in the future, it would be helpful if we received this information, had a chance to digest it and to like come prepared.
Yeah.
This is like one of the most frustrating things that I find being on this committee is sometimes not getting information. We're getting at the last minute, and I just wish that didn't happen, because then it looks like we're hindering progress, but it's really putting us into a compromised position where we have to vote on something that maybe we're not ready to vote on yet because we weren't here.
One of the challenges was it aligns with trimester 2 ending. They wanted to have that other data.
So
to-
clearly, if I can kind of summarize a little bit, clearly, I don't know if everyone's comfortable voting on it this evening, in the general meeting. And I would ask, and I know that, Mr. Kingston and Matera are looking for something even a little bit more, which, I don't necessarily disagree with. I know, but I also know that, like Ms. Rizzo says, it's easier said than done, and no one's disagreeing with that. So would it be, could we offer a compromise that we're continuing to close the gap, come together with the best plan possible, maybe adding some courses or adding the grades that we can add, and have these educators maybe present to us in advance, even if it's just reaching out to us directly or sharing with us the plan in the next couple weeks, so we have time to digest it, and at least be able to, maybe John can pick up the phone and call them. Like, we can call them individually and say, hey, run this down a little bit.
We could even have a
Well-
special meeting before our April meeting. We could put it in the
I
policy.
make a motion that we at least accept this for now so that they can get started with this portion.
No.
And I made a motion.
So
So if
first,
no one wants a second, then it's dead. But I made the motion.
I thought we didn't make motions in the COW.
This is more of just a
More
Why are we
discussion.
saying,
So that would
Discussion.
just, sorry, what?
so you're saying that you want this done, he wants to do it, what, next month?
No,
No.
I offered a compromise. I said do 8 and 7 in all core subjects, which is what I thought the vote was in January. But I'm leaving off the 6th grade, so that the 6th grade would be your time to, I don't know the student or whatever in your building. I think that's fair.
So
So
we're asking her to come back, more information, but not go forward to work with them on what we have right now.
I don't have a problem with the rubrics and the other things you said. I just want to add history and science to the 8th grade, and I want the 7th grade, same thing. That's what we voted. I mean, I know the motion wasn't specific. and maybe it
Technically,
should have
we
been.
didn't vote for middle school, like.
We did.
Yes, we did.
We did. It's in the minutes of the meeting. Absolutely. I looked at it again today to double check.
For the middle
myself.
school, the honors program?
Yes.
I thought you just said we didn't.
She said we didn't have one
She said
before, and we
didn't have
did.
one before, but we.
Yeah,
We
we
did, 4
voted
years
on
ago.
both. I
We
don't-
voted on
What
the
you
middle
said,
school the
because
same
I thought
night.
I was losing my
No,
mind.
we voted middle school that night,
And I
and I
think,
wasn't expecting 1 grade. I just wasn't.
I
So-
think having information, not to be repetitive, but having the information as to what the obstacles are would have been helpful.
Exactly.
Because we're making assumptions that,
Mhm.
it's just, we don't have a complete.
And they can talk
picture
about,
here.
I'm speaking about their schedules, I'm speaking about their staffing challenges, I can speak about them, but.
And I
you can
trust the
also-
information that
Yeah.
it's, they're relaying
They're
this
the
to
ones
you
in the
and you're
weeds,
telling us.
so-
I get that, but we're also not hearing what the problem is with I guess these are the problems, right?
Yeah.
With history and.
Yep, and it was a lot of it was, again, we're going to restrict a schedule and we're going to need additional staff. And they can certainly, like, I don't know who alluded to the data, we have a economist. They have it for all, so yes, we have that data. I think they were looking at that as 2 other subjects that is gonna tie their hands a little bit with their scheduling and is gonna cause more changes to their teaming structures because of that. And I think they wanted to keep the team and the piece of the middle school experience because they have found that has worked since COVID.
And the only thing I'll add in terms of the middle school level is the schedule itself by nature is more restrictive than the high school. So if you're looking to schedule a student for honors, science and math, right? But, there's we call the college, ELA and social studies. At the high school, you have this vast schedule where you can kind of work with that hybrid schedule and still empower that student to take photography or what they want for an elective. Right now, at the middle school level, our electives are slim as it is. And so when you do that 4 core scheduling, it's restricted by nature. And that's I'm just speaking in terms of my
But just
experience.
one thing I want to add too is what bothers me probably the most is we voted this in January. And then February was casually mentioned. There's absolutely no dialogue between the committee and the administration.
Well, we
That-
met 3 times. I think this is my initial foray into the dialogue.
Right, I mean, we casually mentioned in February, what is it to just to send an email off and say, listen, we're looking at just the 8th grade, we have some issues. And then talk about it. Why do we have to talk about it? That's what I have a problem with. And I take it, personal a little, it's just like, I can be here anytime. I mean, more than other people, but to say, why can't we just have an email? Why can't we talk? But we seem like we're not doing that. It's just like, this is the roadblocks. This is the problem. And I think that's wrong.
well, yeah, I
Yeah.
think we should have a conversation, but the reason we don't just have one is because we're a public body, so we're all gonna sit down and talk about
It has
something,
to
it
be
needs to
open.
be posted. But I think this is
Absolutely.
is also great back to how I think maybe it'd be good if we had a curriculum subcommittee so we could really like dive into this, but I actually am not ready to vote on this because we haven't seen it. And I like how the high school had a more collaborative approach. They explained how the teachers were involved in designing the model and hearing that teachers haven't seen the rubric yet or what this program is going to look like in the middle school. I want to see more collaboration there with the principals and the teachers. And so I think what would be helpful for me is if our admin team came back in April and showed us, this is what it looks like, our current model of 8th grade. Here's how it could look to implement it in 7th and 8th across all subjects. And this is what that means for our staffing needs, for our budgetary needs, and for the core curriculum. So I think you all have those discussions, but if you could all present us that plan in writing beforehand to show us, the actual limitations, the pros, the obstacles, what you need from our committee to help you cross those to implement this. So then we can have that full conversation and we can set a time during the COW next month, or we set something up beforehand. We can have the COW whenever we want to fully just talk about this so that you have that support and we have that knowledge.
And if time is of the essence to everyone, we can have another meeting.
Yeah, like we can have one before April, a COW,
Right.
just to talk about that.
And one last point, so with respect to the obstacles that we're facing, had we moved forward on just these two things, I feel like, I mean, the obstacles are still gonna be there. And we still want the core classes, so maybe it's best that we're revisiting this now in the beginning before getting into a program with these two courses, and then they're still hearing from us saying where are the other courses, and then they're having to readjust what they've already started as well.
Yeah, so I think, if your team can bring to us a draft implementation plan on the model that was proposed right now, and then also 7th and 8th, all subjects, and you can show us what teacher input and collaboration looks like. Then once you all have that, we can set up a COW before our April meeting, so that we can all sit down and continue the conversation, so that we can all know, how does that sound to folks?
Sure.
Yeah, that sounds great, and good point about the teacher collaboration.
Yeah, and I think the coaches were, again, it was data gathering to see, does this produce what we
Yeah.
want it to produce? And how do we open the door for teacher input with individual students?
Okay. Thanks, Tim.
Okay, so this is gonna be, I mean, it'll be probably tabled this evening, but we'll talk a little bit further. Okay, portable classrooms, we got the update on that, and, I think Jacqueline, you wanted to discuss the superintendent's evaluation process?
Yeah, so, is it okay if this goes over into the 6 PM or?
They have something going on in here.
So we can just, it was just to give discussion now if we had time, but we can just move it to the 6 PM under new business, and I can just talk about it there so we can transition to our 6 PM.
I think we get 4 good minutes.
Well, there's something here at 6, so we want to give folks time to come in
Set up.
and us to go out.
Oh, okay.
Sure. Motion to
Gotcha.
adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, okay, second. See you at 6 o'clock.
I think so bad, that's funny. Do you know when I first